Ladies and gentlemen, this is National Safety Month. Can you see, steer, stop safely? If not, check your car. Check accidents.
Gaucho.
Hey Gauchos, it's Marv. How you doing? You caught me just about to head out to go for a drive, because if you remember from a couple Gauchocasts ago, I was in my new car, which thankfully is not a Toyota. In fact, you're probably aware already that Toyota's having some pretty big problems right now. Actually, that graphic's not gonna really cut it. Toyota's having big problems, like fill the screen. Toyota's big problems. They're real big. In fact, something to the tune of it's going to be $2 billion in repairs for the company by the time March rolls around. So, pretty terrible. In fact, I made some notes. So to catch you up real quick, if you haven't been following it, if you're not a Toyota owner or you just don't watch the news ever, Toyota had a problem, and first they said it was floor mats causing accelerators to stick and cars would go out of control, and so they recalled a bunch of cars, and then they said, well, it might not be the floor mats, it might be that the accelerator sticks. And some of these cars are drive-by-wire cars, which means instead of a standard like pulley system, mechanical drive on the accelerator, it actually goes to a computer, and the computer tells it to accelerate. Well, they're having a lot of problems with cars being recalled. To be fixed over the next, and if you own a Toyota and it's in the recall list, go ahead and take it into the dealership. And if I was you, I wouldn't wait. I don't know why people are sitting around going, I guess I've got a recalled Toyota, but I'm not going to make a big stink about it. But you'll be making a big stink about it if yours is the next one to go careening off. Now, not a ton of cars in perspective to the number of cars that Toyota made have gone out of control, but enough have to do this gigantic recall. And keep in mind, Toyota is one of the largest car manufacturers in the world. I know a lot of people with Toyotas. You probably know a lot of people with Toyotas. Some of you probably own Toyotas or have in the past. They are just that big, and they've built their reputation on their sterling reliability. In fact, they used to say that they build cars to a quality, not to a price. So Toyotas traditionally would cost a little more, but in the trade-off, you'd be getting a better car. So that sterling reputation for quality is pretty much in the toilet now. And it's going to be for a long time. It's going to be really hard for them to get back into the good graces of the American public. But what I think is going on here is there's an object lesson to be learned. And that's what I wanted to do this week's Gauchocast about. The preconceived notions we have about quality related to brands, brand identity. It's a big thing. When you're out shopping, you're probably thinking, okay, I need to go get a car that is reliable. I need to go get a Toyota or a Honda. That's probably the first thing you're thinking, right? Or I need, item X. So I have this preconceived notion of what I need to go get. And the problem with those preconceived notions is, it's just not always the case. I made a list of a few that are like, top of the list things that come to mind when I think of you have an image in your head of what, if you're thinking, okay, I need to go get a safe car, the safest car. I'm going to be putting my teenage kids in a car and sending them on their way. I want them in the safest car I can find. What are you thinking? You're probably thinking Volvo, right? Because Volvo has a reputation for safety. And throughout the years, and this has always been the case, Volvo, very safe car company. Well, while it's true that on a long enough timeline you go back, Volvos were traditionally safer because they took more of that into consideration when they were building their cars. When cars in general were overall less safe, the advancements Volvo made over the years in safety of their vehicles have actually made all cars safer. So, like, I'm in a Mazda 3 right now. Is my car less safe than a Volvo? Well, probably not, because it shares the space frame with an S40. So it's basically the same cage as a Volvo S40. And they shared that, I believe, with Fords as well. So there's a bunch of cars that are just as safe. So you pay a premium for that Volvo safety, but what you're buying is more so a name than a safety. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy a Volvo. I'm not even saying you shouldn't buy a Toyota. In fact, Consumer Reports is saying overall Toyotas are still reliable vehicles. They removed their recommended status for them on their website, but they're still saying that Toyotas are overall reliable. And if you look at their history, they are still very reliable. Volvos, great cars. I've known people with Volvos, drove them. They're great. But a lot of times when you're buying a Volvo for safety, what you're actually buying is a Volvo for the name. Anyway, moving on. Other preconceived notions. How many times have you been at the drugstore when you've got a cold and you feel terrible and things are running out of your face and every orifice and there's crust and you just feel awful and there's hecking and you're coughing and you're finding things in Kleenex and it's a disaster, and every time you go to the bathroom it's a new adventure in terror? How many times, right? If you're like me, every time you get on an airplane you leave feeling like this. And so you go to the drugstore and you're looking and you go, okay, I need NyQuil, right? I need NyQuil. I don't need the store brand NyQuil. I need NyQuil because I need what works. Well, here's the thing. The store brand medication versus the actual name brand medication, the only difference is about a 60% markup. That's the only difference. The active ingredient is the same. Ibuprofen versus an over-the-counter, like a Tylenol, basically, or like that'd be a acetaminophen. But all these different brands, the active ingredient in the store brand is so much cheaper, and it's the same thing. So really, you're just buying a name or an idea. You're trying to make yourself feel better, and you're not actually making yourself feel any better. Irony? Perhaps. Finally, household electronics. This one is the classic. Big screen TVs, flat screen TVs. Everyone I know makes fun of me because I only have a 26-inch TV, right? A flat screen LCD, the Sony that I got years ago, and I don't watch a ton of TV, right? Because I watch almost everything on the internet because I'm a modern guy. Anyway, so they will make fun of me and say, oh, you need to get a big TV. You need a 52-inch flat screen TV. And if you really want a good one, you've got to get a lot of people say Sony. Some people say LG. They both make great screens. In fact, there's tons of companies out there that make great LCD screens, but do you buy the store brand? If you're at Costco or Sam's Club, do you buy their brand? The Vizios and the Samatronics or whatever they call them, or the Sonys or the Panasonics? Which do you go for? Well, you're probably thinking, hey, you go for the name brand, right? Because there's better quality. Well, okay, there's about 40 LCD flat screen manufacturers in the world right now. Roughly around 40, let's say. But do you know how many companies actually make the components for those manufacturers? 4, 5? Maybe 5 at the most. You see, all the parts that go into the manufacturing of those LCD screens are all the same. So the variance is just in the build quality. And frankly, nowadays, the build quality margin is extremely slim. So if you're going and looking and saying, well, should I get a Vizio, should I get a Panasonic? Panasonic and Sony and LG have a lot of marketing money to pour into their screens. And I'm not saying they don't make great screens. They make great screens. I've got a Sony. My friend has an LG. Great screens. But the simple fact is, it's basically the same thing as the Vizio or the Samatronic, the quality has to get so bad it's noticeable before you know the difference. Do you know what I mean? So if you're looking at it and pieces are peeling off in the store display, well, you should probably avoid that one. But if it's coming down to the difference of $200 or $300 between one's flat screen and another, and you've done your research and you've looked at objective sites, not just across the board, if you've actually gone out there and done the research and the legwork and you've talked to people, well, I think you'll find you're probably just as good off saving your $300 for DVDs, a PS3, a Wii and a Wii Fit board. That money's just better spent elsewhere. That about wraps it up. If you'll excuse me, I've got ice cream to go get. I'm sitting here with this idling, it's crazy. Hey guys, I almost forgot. CNNmoney.com just ran this awesome piece on the 9 biggest ripoffs. that consumers can find right now. Some of my favorites on there were text messaging, which is like a 6,000% markup on cost, obviously. Movie theater popcorn, which is something like, I think it was 600% markup. Obviously, movie theater popcorn is ridiculous. Hotel mini bars were on there, and if you've ever traveled and you know, like the hotel mini bar, it's like, oh, here's a nice $10 thing of M&Ms, and it's like, tiny fun size bag of M&Ms. So check that out at cnnmoney.com. That's really cool. And coming up, just like they did last year, Denny's is doing the free Grand Slam thing on Tuesday the 9th between 6 a.m. 2 p.m. You go to a Denny's, free Grand Slam. There's no strings attached at all. Obviously, it'll be total pandemonium at a Denny's if you go do that. So if you're looking for a free breakfast on Tuesday, check it out at Denny's. And that's it for this week's Gauchocast. I'll catch you next week. I got stuff to go do, like getting ready to go to Denny's, I guess. Okay, see you later.